probably go ahead and start. All right. Well, welcome to our September version of our Maker Roundtable, and we're glad that you could join either live now or if you're watching this recording later. We would be glad to have you along at in person at any future roundtable. You can go to the Richard West. Actually, we'll just have Naomi put some information in the chat about, oh no, you can't see the chat if you're on the recording. Richard West Assistive Technology Center, and that's where you can register for future roundtables. All right. I'm Scott Mary. I work at Missouri Assistive Technology, and along with Mike Murata, who could not join us today, who works at the Richard West Assistive Technology Center. We started this roundtable about a year ago. We have roped in Cole to help us organize these going forward. And there we go. AT4 NewJersey.org for the webinars in the future. Yeah, so I run the demonstration and reuse programs here. If we want to go around and just do a quick intro, that would be, I think, great. Coming back, let's drop it to Cole.
Hello, y'all. I am Cole Glosser. I work down here in Austin, Texas at the Technology Access Program. It's basically equivalent to Scout's Assistive Technology Act program in Missouri. I focus on a couple of things. I facilitate and administer the 3D printing program here at TTAP, as well as also lead alternative financing, but right now it's more so most recently trying to give several people different resources, grant resources to help with shower and home modification. But I really enjoy the 3D printing side of things, and also getting to collaborate with different local folks down here, most recently with speech language pathologists in Austin ISD to help with making customized ski guards.
Well, since I'm off mute, I guess I'm next. My name is Ken Hackbarth, and I have a for-loss company called Volkswitch.org, where I basically have a website with a bunch of designs on it. And let's see, I want to plug two things. One is I'll be speaking at the Assistive Technology Conference of New England in November. And I'm giving a presentation on making assistive technology. And I want to make it broader than the traditional topic, which is here are a bunch of things you can make for people. And I want to talk about the process of design through support. It'll be a first chance to test this presentation out. And that poor group is going to be my set of guinea pigs. I'll have to apologize in advance to that. And I'm also presenting virtually at OCALI, the OCALI conference, which is primarily an autism-focused conference, the day before my presentation in New England. That one will be a pretty polished by then presentation on next generation tactile symbols based on 3D printed bliss symbolics.
And where is your New England presentation? Or are you just like the Patriots, just New England?
No, it's actually it's in Rhode Island, which I think is New England, isn't it? So in Warwick, Rhode Island.
Great. All right, somebody else?
Oh, what the heck? Hi, everybody. My name is Bill Janes. I am also in Missouri, the University of Missouri, right smack in the middle of the state. I'm an occupational therapist on faculty here, and I do research around assistive technology in a lot of different ways. So I get to work with OT doctoral students, OTA undergrad students. I have 2 PhD students currently, and also work with I kind of advise a senior capstone group of engineering students annually. So I just met with a new group of them yesterday. We work on a lot of making custom and customizable AT. So a lot of that is 3D printing. We have a grant right now through the ALS Association where we're providing devices across kind of a 3-state region in a model pretty similar to what Cole does, but with kind of a whole research component tagged on to it to collect a lot of data. We're averaging 3 device requests a day right now. So all of the printers are down in the lab right now, just cranking away. And then students are helping to assemble things and design and create new things.
How many printers do you have, Bill?
4 working currently. There's a 5th one that is sitting there.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Ann Barno. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, and I am with Assistive Technology for Employment and Independence. So it's a sister program to Arizona's Technology Access Program, and we are grant funded by RSA. So we are helping vocational rehabilitation clients receive assistive technology for employment.
Great. Shannon has disappeared, but she
I think
will
her
be back.
lighting was a little off, so I think she's
Right.
going to grab something.
Well,
I can give her a quick intro. Oh, she got off momentarily. I will say I'll give Shannon a quick intro if she takes a little while. So she is our education coordinator, who's actually based out of the greater Houston area here in Texas. And she basically coordinates kind of presentations with a lot of different school districts in the area around technology access. And additionally, she's kind of been my partner when it comes to administering the 3D printing program. Hey, Shannon, I was kind of giving a quick intro into what you do at TTAP.
and Shannon, are you an SLP?
She is an SLP. So also a very great asset in that regard as well.
Yeah.
And
All
let
right.
me, while Shannon gets completely hooked up, let me say that I met Shannon through this group. When I was talking about some things I was working on with these tactile symbol concepts, and she became the most effective evangelist for them. She made a presentation with me at ATIA. I think it was ATIA. I get the conferences mixed up. And she's making sure these things get trialed throughout her many reaches in Texas. So she's been incredibly valuable as a resource that I had never anticipated. Just she happened to be there one day in one of these meetings.
I did not know that you guys met here. That's great.
And yeah, Shannon's focusing very specifically now on keywords, but more so specifically on the bliss symbols with her communication background, whereas I'm focusing more on physical access when it comes to 3D printing and AT.
Yeah, it's very cool.
So now we know all about Shannon. She doesn't have to introduce herself.
Shouldn't have to say a thing. We're just going to
Not
sing
a
her
thing.
praises. No, Shannon has been very useful in lots of ways. I think for easily all around the country. So because I'm holding this little thing, I'm gonna share this itty bitty little key guard. So I think I win the prize for world's smallest. I don't know if it has worked yet.
Scott, sorry, you can't award yourself the prize.
Why
Somebody else.
not?
I
Why
win
not?
the prize. Go ahead.
If it's my rules. Okay. I've got a woman who came to me and she said she has a client who's blind, and I had tried some AT, for different things for him, but he actually got his job, got this little handheld actually it Velcros on his arm. It's a really small device. And he is supposed to, there's options, like 8 or 10 options, and he is supposed to poke the button, the number that corresponds to what option he does with the box or whatever it is. And he could memorize the options, but he could not see the numbers to poke them. So we designed this key guard, and he will then just, you know, feel for where the numbers are. So his counselor with rehabilitation services for the blind, I don't think she's gotten it to him yet. I think he's still training or something. But so we're going to see if it works. I think the design will have to be changed a bit, so it has, we're just going to like Velcro it, not Velcro, but somehow adhese it on. So that's something I would like to ask you guys. I was thinking putting tabs like on these 3 sides, because he's not really reading the screen that's here. So putting tabs on there so it could be attached, but I didn't want Velcro because it's too thick and it will be too hard to then poke in the holes. So I'm taking any thoughts on that?
Microsuction tape.
Microsuction tape. Okay.
I can send you a URL to the Amazon page if you need it, but
That would be fantastic.
if it's a glass or smooth plastic surface that it's going on, that stuff will do a fine job of adhering. Of course, you just have to make sure you're not occluding any part of the screen he needs.
Right. No, I think like, you know, the big square just has all the information, but the device is his. He doesn't have to share it with anybody. So this gets to stay on there. So I think that would be great. And it's thin, I assume.
0.5 millimeter.
That's pretty thin.
That's pretty thin.
Yeah, because I was thinking about like, I have some of what's, I guess, referred to as nano tape, but it's really thick. And I don't know if it's the same thing.
No, not,
Okay.
not if you say it's really thick, that it's not the same thing.
No, I mean, I know, but I didn't know if it came in different thicknesses.
It does come in different thicknesses, but I don't think any of them exceed 2 millimeters.
Okay. Okay.
But I'll send you the
Well,
URL. I'm going to put it in the chat because I think it's
Yeah.
really nice stuff. It's inexpensive. You cut it to size.
Perfect. Yep, that's all I want to do is have it not fall off when he is dragging a stylus around. I hate my phone. All right. Does anybody have any projects they're working on where they need group input, or is it just me?
I have a couple, but Cole looks like he's getting ready to talk. So Cole, go for while I'm looking for that URL.
Oh, thank you. So at the end of like last week, Shannon and I were meeting with our speech language pathologists here in Austin ISD. Basically, they have a student who requires an AAC device, but who's also visually impaired. So we're kind of thinking through different solutions, different considerations for how best to isolate, the different, I guess not the communication symbols, but the, I guess the needs in terms of like, because I was thinking about utilizing, of course, Ken's key guard designer around the, like the raised, I guess I'm trying to think the terminology, Ken, around like the raising of like the cells to like provide some tactile feedback. But then Shannon also had another kind of idea, if you want to share that, Shannon.
I told them to explore because I've taken a key guard and put bumps from just Tinkercad. It's just a quick landmark. So I told them to explore both options.
And the designer supports you in putting those bumps or other shapes right on it as well. You don't have to take it and then put it through Tinkercad.
So that's where you as an engineer have that really good designer skill. And for me, I can do it, but it takes me a lot longer. Whereas if I just put it in Tinkercad, I go bloop, 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 and then it's done. So
I'll have to add sound effects, Shannon. I'm sorry.
as I get better at SCAD, I would definitely do that for them. But while they, like me, are a speech pathologist and not an engineer, I'm just giving them options to see what they can do the quickest and easiest. And this is a child they don't even know if they're going to keep, just due to where his current location is. He or she may be moving out with some complex needs. And they're still at that experimental stage. And it's a child with, like I said, vision. It's probably cortical vision and some, but has mobility. And they're going to be looking at an auditory scanning system. So part of it is because of this individual, you're looking at gaining attention, something that is tactile pleasing versus aversive to the child. I do think in the long run, your Braille would be really good because we want to start exposing the child to Braille from the very beginning. But the child does have hearing, and so they're trying to look at that. So I think we were just more brainstorming a lot of different things, but it's really hard when I'm not directly working with the child, so I have to go by what they tell me. Like I know what kind of kiddo because I've worked 15 years in schools. But I think there's a lot more to it than just where we are here. And honestly, Ken, I would do the bliss symbols with this child also, but they want that auditory feedback. And I don't think this is a child that's quite ready to use the talk box, the
Voice it.
Yeah. And it sounds like there's a lot of established behaviors with this child, but they think this child has potential. So, which I think all children do if you find the right tools. So I think it's kind of an exploratory stage right now.
Okay. Is that it, Cole?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Just kind of go over that overview.
All right, so I'll just mention a couple things. I've been working on these bags, but apparently they're already on the market. That Ziploc. Actually, what I'm working on is, and this I've already posted it, so I guess it doesn't qualify as something that I'm working on, but I've worked on. That is, I have spent the last 5 years on and off trying to come up with a 3D printed switch that I wanted to claim as this is the eponymous switch for my website and for the name of that For Lost company. And I started with one. I didn't do this. This is Bill Binko and his AT Makers guys.
Mm-hmm.
But I tried building one, and all I saw was, man, this thing is incredibly bad. From a design standpoint, thank God Bill won't watch this, will he? And
if he does, we'll have your back.
Thank you. But it has some nice ideas, and of course I steal when I can. But it's based on typical spring, I should say,
Mm-hmm.
Which springs are really hard to get. But the whole movement of the thing is unreliable, and it also violates one thing that I've always wanted to achieve, which is a switch that doesn't involve soldering. Because I figure if you can avoid soldering, well, then you get a whole new audience of people who can build it. So I've experimented over time with some design stuff, things I've discovered as I build other things or definitely steal from other people. And I came back to this after leaving it for a couple of years. I came back to this kind of a spring, which is just a 3D printed leaf spring, and it can be in a variety of configurations and thicknesses. And this little post down here is what activates the micro switch. We'll talk about that in a second. But the thickness of these arms can be different. The number of arms can be different. The length of the post can be different. So when I was going to school, I learned about all these parameters for a pressure switch, like how far should it be pressed, how much pressure should be involved. And so I thought I would like a switch that allow customization in all those areas.
Mm.
So here's just a simple leaf switch that you 3D print. You don't have to go source it somewhere from McMaster Carr and pay through the nose for some collection of those things. But you just print it yourself. And I have tried printing it on a TPU. I don't have a lot of hope for this, even though it's incredibly flexible. It's probably just too flexible. But so using that, and I may have to pull this out or just show you inside here. I think they're gonna have light in there. So this is a little switch, micro switch. They probably call it a micro switch, but it's not your traditional micro switch. It comes pre-wired with a couple of bare ends on the end of the wires. And then this thing at the bottom is a little headphone jack that you just plug those wires into, tighten up some screws, and put it in place. And then you have a switch with access to a headphone jack. Let's turn this. I have a lot of trouble with backward movements on webcams. So this can be assembled pretty quick. If you put these little feet on it, it's really stable on a flat surface. If you want to mount it to some other surface, you have your oh gosh, it's drifting. You have your typical 1/4 inch T-nut here, and then this slides into that. It just slides in and clips in place. The top goes on, and then here was Maker's Making Change. I asked for some friends who would help me design that voice it. I thought a guy, a mechanical engineer, joined me in that effort, and I've since never let him leave me. But I was trying to figure what is the best way to produce a little surface like this that can go reliably up and down, straight up and down, and cleanly when you're dealing with a bunch of layer lines. You can't put a 3D printed part inside another 3D printed part and expect it to move up and down smoothly.
Right.
It's just going to scrape. And there's really no good way around that without a lot of post-processing. But he said, you know, they make these little things called spacers or standoffs, which I had actually seen before, but it never came to mind till he brought it up. So it's just a little metal part like this. And it slides in and out of that opening. You make that opening fairly tight, and it slides very smoothly. It slides straight up and down. There's no twisting, which I was having trouble with other switches and other designs.
And that piece is threaded, Ken?
Threaded inside and on top.
Yeah.
Okay.
And because it's hexagonal, it also doesn't rotate, which is a huge problem when you're attaching something else. That it's constantly, you know, I made this out of TPU, so you can have a soft, flexible surface. But these, when you can put on an activation surface, which is the term I came up with here. You can swap it for a different design, different size, whatever, and it just screws on and it stays screwed on. So there's a designer for that now. Anyway, I'm looking for people who are willing to print this and give me feedback on the design. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Bill. I'll put the link to that webpage so it's all documented.
I'll always print what you design because it's already designed. So that makes it so much easier. I got the printer part down. I'm getting the SCAD, but it's still, I have to think about it. It's not automatic for me.
That's okay. If you want to put it through Tinkercad, I won't be hurt.
And
But
Tinkercad is, my grandson can do that. So if he can do it, I can do it. So
all right. And then I have had a number of sort of side conversations with Scout about wheelchair ramps, portable wheelchair ramps. And
ooh,
while I will recommend highly against this kind of activity in that making
yeah, I
presentation,
would agree.
I still couldn't resist doing something here, and then maybe working with Scout on the topic. And I've also run this design past that mechanical engineer just to get this. I want him to put it in his subconscious and tell me, nah, you could do a better design this way. Anyway, using TPU, and even, you do 100% infill on TPU, and that son of a gun is very rigid and it will never break. It will never break. So I said, and this is what, 1/8 size, because it's 50% scaled. And it's never been tested. I've never run it by anything other than through through the CAD tool. But the idea is that you would have control over things like the slope and the height and the length. Well, the length and the height determine the slope, but I want to run this by Scout just to get what are reasonable dimensions on this? What is a reasonable amount of rise that you want to be able to reach in a fair amount of settings that aren't putting you terribly at risk? And then could you pack all this away? So you would have a pair of these, and then you would have a couple of bars, assemblable bars that would, I haven't made any hole in here yet, but it would just go in and turn and would be fixed. Maybe a couple of these that would fit together, and they would provide the proper width apart. Then there has to be another kind of thing you would assemble, but that's for placing it. You'll be like a push tool and a lift, and maybe you have a push end, and then the other end would have some sort of hook on it, so you could catch these and bring them up once you no longer need them. You'd pass the space. This is just brainstorming anyway. And
so you would be using that for like smaller inclines, like
threshold
One
on
step.
And I'm even thinking, so we have these wonderful workers working in my neighborhood right now, and they're in drilling the conduits. They've now raised our sidewalk up about this much.
Okay.
So you could even have something portable like that for emergencies where, maybe there's not a ramp included, but then you could quickly, somebody was with you, they could put that down for a wheelchair to get you up, even something that's unexpected like that nobody anticipated.
Right. And I'm thinking of this even as so you wouldn't have to necessarily have a person with you. If you had fairly good mobility from the waist up, say, so that you could reach over and set something down and push it against the threshold.
Yeah.
Go up it and then retrieve it. So and that's that design I sent to you, Scott, that has kind of a rounded front and then angles back. So
you almost put like a fishing line on it so that you could reel it back in.
You could, yeah. So you could either be attached to a rope of some kind, or like I said, it could be fished with a pole with a little hook on the end somehow. There could
Like
be
a dressing stick.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd almost want that safety string, because if it was a pole and you pushed it out of reach, then it would make it tricky. Whereas if you had that string, it'd be like doop, 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 boop.
Yep. Yeah. The only problem with the string is that if you're pulling it up against the threshold, on the string isn't going to help. You need to be able to lift it. But
fishing line, heavy duty.
Oh, a fishing line, a spinning pole, and you just reel that son of a gun up right up in the air. But
lightweight and compact.
Yep. So it's lightweight. You could even throw the fishing pole, expanding fishing pole in there, but something you could put in a bag.
Yeah.
And assemble it should you need to. It would, like I say, my presentation says, don't design anything that's going to put somebody at risk. And then then I'm talking to you about this. So I'm going to definitely say Scout consulted on this.
Yeah, I really wanted something that a person could use independently with enough mobility. My concern with that, so if you have a 7-inch step and you've got the lip at the end, and then you've got a 6-inch step, is that flexible enough? With that TPU, it might be flexible enough to to,
Well, the important thing
overcome
is because it rounds here, it'll actually rotate down. So as
right, right.
I've got it video somewhere, but as you roll up it, it's so hard to do with a webcam. As you roll up it, it does this and lifts up in the back, but your weight is here by now. And then it
Yeah.
falls back down. And then the
So
next
what
weight would come,
about the
rotate
other
up.
direction?
The other way, you'd come in and you'd hit it, bring it down, and you'd
Okay.
roll it, go like this. And there could be lots of things you could do along here to put some sort of little teeth that would keep it from moving too much, but would allow it to turn. This is where I said to that mechanical engineering guy, just keeping your subconscious, and when little ideas come your way about how to make this more stable and work better, is it really this idea of this curve and this back turn here that is valuable, or would another approach be more valuable? But yeah, the whole idea is by keeping it like a little fulcrum here, you can have a variety of heights rather than
Yeah.
a straight turn.
And it'll give a little on each side.
Yep.
Mhm.
And I just love TPU because it's unbreakable. So I can take this and bend the heck out, and it's just not going to come apart. And it's light,
Bill,
very light.
what did you have to say?
Yeah, so Ken, again, I'm trying to get a feel for what's the range of rises that you're expecting. Is it a crack in the sidewalk? Is it a curb? Or is it?
It's Scout. He's going to tell
Curb.
me what I
Curb.
should be thinking about. Is
I
it
want-
a
Okay.
curb, or is it just a threshold into a room? So I don't know where people run into problems that they would want this kind of capability. I don't know if it would you'd want to work for power chairs as well as manually propelled chairs. But you're right. There's a level, though, which I don't think I'd want to go above something, even for one step.
Yeah, I would agree.
Uh,
But there is
Well,
a, like I've got several friends who are wheelchair users, and I want them to come and enjoy the lake house. And so I would love to have something, and I looked into, well, I've got 1-2 places specifically that I would need something, and then for me to purchase that, it's a pretty huge expense, and they're all different needs. So so you think about people like even going into venues that maybe are older and have more of that separation, just to be able to have something quick, because not everything is accessible. That's lightweight like that.
Right. It's not going to resolve every situation for sure. It's only going to do, I think, safely one step. Maybe something changes and you do 2 steps, but it's not, I don't even think 3 would be reasonable.
I wouldn't
I
wanna
think
go-
1 step is.
I wouldn't want to go beyond one step, and I would want a large threshold on either side. of
Yeah,
that.
I would agree.
So the ADA says you should not exceed 12 degrees. This is 21 degrees.
So threshold ramps have a different, well, I don't know what 12, but the 12-to-1 rating is for a general ramp, but under 6 inches or 6 inches or less, I guess, you can have twice that slope.
Oh, okay. That's good. I would want to include that in my warranty,
Yeah.
my liability insurance.
so that's part of why I ask, is for that exact thing. The 12-to-1 ratio for such a small rise is pretty excessive. But even at a 6-to-1, if you're talking about a 6-inch rise, that's still a 3-foot ramp.
Well, no, that's a 1.5, right? 6 inch.
Oh, is that right?
6 inches, half a foot. So you'd have to multiply that 6 times 1/2. Or maybe you did it right. Maybe, I don't know. 6-to-1.
I was going to say
It is
6
3.
to
I don't do math.
foot and a half would be 3-to-1. Yeah. So it would be a 3 foot to get a
3 foot,
6-inch rise, which is not exactly going to work in that portable. If the goal is to hit that. So I think if you go even shorter, It's doable. But then if you get to too small of a rise that you're trying to account for someone that has the dexterity and the ability to deploy this thing, that's probably a manual chair user who can just pop a wheelie and get over the
Right.
threshold.
How do you pop the back part of that wheelie? I've never seen that.
Push
You
hard.
pop the front and then roll over because the back wheel is so big it can clear the threshold. It's the
Okay.
casters on the front that won't clear.
Those are the ones. Okay.
Yeah. But there's still, I don't get me wrong, there's still that intermediate range between a threshold and a curb that is a huge issue. I think every morning when I'm out walking in my neighborhood and there's the one bit of sidewalk that's got a good 2 or 3 inch displacement to it, that is the part that will get someone stuck.
It's also the
don't
part
think-
on my commute that keeps me in the road instead of on the bike path because
Exactly.
there's a 2-inch gap at both sides of this bridge. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
So this is 1 inch right now, roughly a little over 1 inch. And so if you made this to the right size, it'd be twice as long and twice as tall. And it would be a 21 or so degree slope, which again, still might be manageable for a lot of people with a fair amount of upper body strength. But so I was just going to run this by Scout so I could always point at him
Mhm.
should I run into court proceedings.
it was just an idea. You're the one who's making it.
Everything starts as an idea and then it grows.
He's already
Yeah.
working on his defense.
So my next idea that I've thrown out to a few OTs, not the one here, if we're done with your ramp,
Oh, yeah.
is my stepson pulled out this portable compressor. So it was like this big, right? And he said he hadn't charged it in 6 months and it blew up these bike tires. And so I was like, great, that's what my mother needs with a blow up pyramid, stair step pyramid. So when her husband falls in the backyard, she can take the compressor, blow up the pyramid, and he can climb up that because it's really stable and get himself up to a position where he could maybe transfer to a chair or, do something besides making all the neighbors pull up this guy who's almost as tall as Ken Hackbarth off the ground. Ken is very tall for those of you.
Now
who
that
do
is
not.
that is a relative statement. I have to say right now.
Ken hides that with his camera angle.
So there sounds like an oxymoron. Blow up stable. How is this thing you blowing up stable?
Because of the shape, I want it to be stable. It's a pyramid.
Okay.
And I don't know. I want it to be portable. That's my thing. So if this is stupid, that's fine. But I want it to be portable, and then something that somebody could get up and under $300. There is this dumb seat one that blows up 1, 2, 3, but there's no sides. It seems kind of nutty, and
Is
it's
there-
like
is there a-
$800.
Is there a commercial version of this that we could see a URL?
There is, somebody was demonstrating one of those, but it was like mega expensive, thousands of dollars. And they were demonstrated it last year at Region 4 event I went to. So I'm gonna have to look and find out what their lift was, but it was pretty cool. But it was like that. If someone were to fall, it was to help them get up
Oh.
like that.
Be interesting to see what that looks like. 'Cause I have trouble
Yeah.
imagining it.
So the only one I found was just not even 2x2. It was probably 18-inch square, 3-tiered. So you blow up one tier, blow up the next tier, blow up the next tier, which makes sense. But you also have to have good, I don't know, I guess you have to have trunk stability. You have to have, everything. And with mine, you'd have to have, some mobility to kind of climb it. I don't know. It's just
One.
another thought.
Sorry,
Ready, Ken?
that didn't need to.
But $300,
Yeah.
that's what I want to, I think that's the,
So
it
this
just
gets
doesn't
the
make
person
sense
to a
to charge
seated position?
2,000.
this gets the person to a seated position. Is that it? So they're seated on the ground, and then you just get them up to a position where they're like in a chair. Is that what this is trying to do?
Maybe, but then it would be hard if it's a pyramid. You couldn't get a chair there. You'd have to also have a transfer board or something.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like even if you could get up to a kneeling position, but if it was blow up, it would be less pressure on your knees instead of like a hard surface, because some people can't put that much pressure on their knees, but you have to have enough pressure that you can get up it. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look at.
I'm thinking, how is this similar to those lounge chairs that will kind of rise up and then move forward to get you almost to a standing position?
Oh, like a lift chair, you mean?
Possibly. Yeah, I mean, they sell
Yeah.
them. I see a lot of them in my ad feed right now. For some reason, somebody thinks I'm old enough to need one of these.
Yeah, the link, Shannon, that you put in there is the only thing I've seen, and it
That second link has like 10 different options. There's different cool things on there.
oh, okay, I'll check
That
that
has
one out.
like 10 different types of lifting systems for getting old people off the floor.
Oops. Yeah,
This is,
maybe
you
I just
slide this
didn't.
under them somehow, huh? Or you roll them onto it.
Right, I think you could just roll somebody onto it.
So there's another one for only 1,700.
Oh,
Oh, and I like this graying with grace. I've oh, the recent one, and it's on that graying with grace, is the bathtub lift. The only thing with that is it's kind of heavy. I mean, it's a pretty lightweight lift, but it's a bathtub lift, and they're using it as a basically a fall lift, which is
Oh, but if you
smart.
go down here, there's this lift assist standing aid handicap bar. That looks promising. But once again, I get nervous when you start dealing with weight and lifting and moving.
Which device did you like?
Oh, the ones that I think would be 3D printable are on the bottom, and they're just handles to help you hold someone and kind of pull them up that way. So it's not quite what you're talking about, but it is still lift assist. It's the lift assist standing aid handicap bar, but it's only $19 for that. Just
Oh
easy.
yeah, so
You know, one of the ones
Mhm.
listed in there, at least this isn't what you described, Scout, but the one that says example 2, the para ladder manual lift. If you were to search that page for PL 1000, it's essentially a step stool, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't look like from that picture that it's collapsible. And this, this does not solve your issue of it being under $300 by the time you get to the point of manufacturing. But that concept in a collapsible form, just like any step stool, would meet the need really well. But there's no, I don't know of anyone that's going to be able to, I don't think any of us have the machines to be able to just make that in our garage right now.
Well, and for me, even like I think of this group. I know we focus a lot on 3D printing, but
I agree. Yeah. Other options.
yeah, there are other options, and I think that a collapsible thing like that. I mean, you could even attach wheels to the back so that when it's upright, the wheels are up, but you could roll it even across the yard.
how is this being used as well? So am I doing like a little push up?
I think it's got the handles.
I push down and lift my butt to the next
And
level.
yeah,
And I push down again, lift my butt to the next level. So it requires somebody who's got enough triceps to actually, and deltoids, to lift themselves up that high. Yeah, that could be made out of PVC piping.
I was wondering about that. Like, To a certain, I wonder what the weight limit is going to be there, but
Those are short lengths.
yeah, that's true. The last link I put in there is just directly to that product page, and you can see it in use in their pictures there. And Scott, I thought about that with your pyramid shape, right? That I got, if I understood you right, the idea you were talking about isn't necessarily to put it under someone, inflate it to lift them, but it was more to be climbed. Is that right? So
That was my thought.
yeah, so I think this confirms that somebody has thought about that basic shape in a different medium.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
inflatable idea is really good, but again, by the time you get to manufacturing cost, I don't know how you're making that not at scale for anything close to the price point you're thinking of.
Yeah.
I'd also like to say that
Um,
on this page, there are multiple of these sectioned blow up parts. And some of them are like 3, 4, 5 sections high. And they just, I can tell from the way they're made that they're joined, they adhere together in the center. But if you sat on the top of that and just did a little bit of lateral kind of slide, that thing's going to fall right over.
That's what my first thought. I've only seen the 3-section one, but that was my thought, is that it's, after a fall, if you get on that too quickly, you're not real, you might not be really in a stable spot, and mentally kind of, and then you're getting on that with nothing to hold on to,
so
I didn't like it.
I wonder, okay, what if we think mixed media here of the idea of, let's say, 3 rectangular pillows like that of decreasing size as you go up, like a pyramid, that are attached to one another, along with some sort of built-in PVC frame to give it a little bit of rigidity around the edges. And if that PVC frame were, say, cantilevered at the edges, you could even, if you're worried about outdoor use, if that was the idea of out in the yard, have essentially tent stakes at the bottom of that when you pop it up, those poke into the ground to keep it from sliding in any direction. And the frame can give you something to hold on to, similar to what you have there. I'm thinking about, my kids have one of those, it's like a bounce house, right? That's inflatable. And there, I said the cost to make this thing might be a lot, but it's just essentially fabric that is sewn together at the edges. The difference there is those are made with the idea of constantly losing some air and having a source constantly feeding it. So I don't know if your little handheld compressor is going to give enough air that if this thing isn't sealed, that it would work. I was thinking of that fabric idea, but I'm afraid it's just going to collapse in that case.
Oh,
It would need to be plastic, more like a pool
Swim-
float, right?
exactly.
And I don't know what the manufacturing process is going to look like for that.
No, but there are groups that make things that, have nothing to do with AT, that I just thought, if
Sure.
there was a good design from people who like to think about these things like me, but with lots of input, but if there's a good design, somebody else can deal with making it. I'm not looking to take anything to production, but just, poke something forward, like, hey, is this a possibility for, a reasonable price point? I don't know. But it is close to the top of the hour, so let's get off of my things. And who else has something? Mary, you've put up with us for an hour now. Do you have anything you want to
Just kind of listening
throw out?
in, yeah. I don't think I have anything right now. Or I guess it's not so much making, it's just figuring out some internal computer functions with an accent device. And with Unity in accessing Facebook. So the client she uses switches, 2-step switch scanning to access her device. And she's able to access the pages, but then once she's on Facebook, how is she going to use text to speak to be able to read the messages by herself? So I was looking at the narrator yesterday, but it just kind of seemed a little wonky. So I was going to put on my thinking cap today.
Is
and
she
look a
on the
little bit
Edge
more into that.
browser?
I think she is using Microsoft Edge, yes.
I wonder if she can use the,
What is the best way to help a heavy person up from the ground?
the features on the Edge browser.
So I turned on the narrator feature, and it kind of seemed when she went back into her Unity user area, it almost had like a lag for her to access just her normal communication. So it was kind of brief that we were figuring it out yesterday. So I was gonna think some more about it, but if anyone has, like, maybe I was thinking of an extension, but then I don't know how she would activate the extension with switches.
So Shannon is your person right here. We probably won't, well, unless you can solve this in the next 4 minutes, but
No, I need to think on it, but Angela and I are both familiar with the accent, and we've got a lot of accent users, so I can kind of maybe even talk to some other accent users to see how they're accomplishing this.
Okay, that'd be awesome.
And I want to give
and
a
immersive reader, that's what Naomi's putting in the chat. Is that an option at all?
So we kind of looked at that, but then for her to be able to press play, I didn't know how she would be able to do that on the web page.
Yeah.
And I want to give a plug to AAC for the SLP. It's a Facebook group. Lots of members, lots of people who've experienced life. So give that, if you're not already a member, or you can just go there and post your question, and I think you'll
I
get
would agree.
responses.
Those are what social media should be used for, not how to
Right.
write a goal for a kid we've never seen before.
Is Gemma on that AAC for the SLP?
Think she is. That's not how I usually contact her, but
Right.
Christine Bowden is there. But just
Well,
see
there's
lots of
AAC for the SLP. Is that what you were talking about? Not AT for the SLP? Yeah.
AAC for the SLP.
Oh yeah, I'm on that one.
Lots of people are there. That's why it's a great.
Yeah, yeah.
I think
Yeah,
I might
so there
already
you
be in
go.
the group, but I usually just ask around instead of
okay.
posting on social media, but I'll try that.
Yeah, and the quiet listserv is another place to ask those kinds of questions. And the thing is, then if you get an answer, then on those groups, everyone's got that. It's really specific, but there's going to be somebody else in North Dakota who's like, oh, great, So I think.
And
that's
Mary, I've got an accent that I can use to try it out. So
Okay, that'd be awesome. Yeah, because I
All
know
right.
when I use the PASS software, it doesn't act the same as when you actually have the accent in front of you.
yeah, the past software is totally different. It's missing the bells and whistles, but I've got an actual device that I can play around with and try it. I won't have it. I'll have it tomorrow, so I'll play around with it tomorrow, and then we'll ask around.
Thank you.
Mary, what's your email address?
So it's my first name, Mary.Barno, B as in boy, ARNO @NAU.edu.
In EU?
NAU.edu.
In AU.
So Northern Arizona University.
Okay. All right, we'll play around.
All
with that.
right.
That'll be fun.
Thank you.
You might not need AAC for the SLP.
Right.
But if you do find something cool, again, I'm all about like posting that and sharing those things that the one-offs that you find, because somebody else might need it. All right, so we have come up to our hour, unless anybody else has one more comment. Okay, so thanks everybody. And I will hope to see you all next month I don't know the date, but I bet if we give it 30 seconds, it'll pop up in the chat. But we are what? Third Thursday. So that would be the 19th of October. All right. Well, hopefully we'll see you all then. Thank you so much. And goodbye.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Scout. Thanks, everyone.
Very-